It's meant to be spring and yet the lighting is so bad. Rude. That was my March. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all well. As the title of this video very clearly suggests, today I'm filming my March wrap up, which is crazy. I have had a little YouTube break. This is actually the first time I've sat down and filmed since I filmed my March TBR. I was just feeling really burnt out creatively on Bookstagram and on Booktube. So I just thought, stop putting the pressure on yourself. I'm filming this on, I think it's the 27th of March, because I know that I won't read any more books this month because the slump is here. I think everyone's in a reading slump. I read 11 books in March, which I'm really pleased with, considering I've been in a reading slump for at least a week already. All of them are physical books this month. I haven't had a need to listen to an audiobook. So without further ado, I'm going to show you and talk a little bit about the 11 books that I read in March. The first book that I finished in March was The Choice by Alex Lake. This is my second book by this author, and I believe this is their most recent novel. They write thrillers primarily, and there's a new one coming out at the end of the year, I believe. So that's very exciting. Last summer I read 7 Days by this author and I really enjoyed it. I'm not a massive thrillery reader anymore. I used to be, but I'm really not anymore. So 7 Days was like really good. I've seen it compared to Room by Emma Donoghue a lot. It was like sort of those vibes. And this book is also centered around a kidnapping. The father in the story pops to the corner shop and leaves his three kids in the car. Then when he gets back, the car and the kids are gone, and the kidnapper wants his wife as ransom payment for the children. It's pretty high stakes. It throws you right in the action, and then the middle bit is a bit iffy, and then the ending was really good as well. I rated this 4 stars, I think. I did actually really enjoy it. I think I enjoyed it more because I don't read that many thrillers. I think if you are a thriller reader, you might not enjoy this one as much. The next book that I read is Girls of Storm and Shadow by Natasha Nyang. I actually can't stop thinking about how incredible this book is. Some super heavy trigger warnings, just like the first book, that you should be aware of going into it. I've given this 5 stars. Essentially, this book picks up straight after Girls of Paper and Fire. I can't disclose much else of the plot without spoiling the first book, so I'm obviously not going to do that. However, the relationships, the characters, the representation, the plot, the journey, just absolutely everything about this book was sensational, and I cannot wait for the 3rd book in this trilogy to be released at the end of the year. This will be a series I think I will definitely be rereading before the 3rd book comes out. The next book that I read is also sapphic fantasy, and it was These Witches Don't Burn by Isabel Sterling. I also adored this book. I really enjoyed it. It follows our main character Hannah, who is a witch, and she's not allowed to use her powers in public. They have to make sure that people don't know there are witches living in their town, and it's suspected that there is a witch hunter on the loose. It doesn't sound fun, but it was fun. The ending had me shook. It was really good. I know that there's a sequel to this. I'm going to wait until the paperback is released in August. I'm not in desperate need for the sequel because it wrapped up pretty well, but I'm excited to read the sequel to read more of these characters. So overall, I really enjoyed this book. I gave this 5 stars as well. Sapphic witches, I knew I was going to love it, but definitely did not disappoint. The next book was actually a buddy read with my lovely friend Izzy at Peekabook on Instagram, and we read Good Girl Bad Blood by Holly Jackson, and let me tell you, this one took me by surprise. So I said the exact same thing about A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I was not expecting to enjoy it at all. Seen it compared to One of Us is Lying a lot, and I read that a long time ago, but it definitely didn't stick with me. It definitely hasn't been a favourite. So the fact that I loved A Good Girl's Guide to Murder was exciting. I was like, yeah, I can't wait for the next book. But then I put off reading it for ages. So me and Izzy actually gifted each other this book, so it was natural to do a buddy read. Once again, there is another mystery to be solved in Little Kilton. So Pip has said definitively that her detective days are behind her. However, one of her best friends, Connor, comes to her and says that his brother Jamie has gone missing and the police won't do anything about it. So Pip decides to help, and it's really, really good. The last 100 pages had me on my toes, let me tell you. I was actually crying throughout this book as well. Like, it really did hit the emotions. I was not expecting to love this as much as I did, but what can I say? It really, really surprised me, and I'm really, really glad that we did pick it up. I'm super excited for the third book to be released later on this year. And yeah, I actually gave this 5 stars as well. The next book that I read was for the Make Your Shelves Inclusive Book Club, hosted by Martha Bethan Reads on Instagram. And the theme this month was Own Voices Muslim Rep, and we read The Henna Wars by Adabajah Girder. And this follows our main character Nishat, who is from a Bengali family, and she's a Muslim, and she is coming to terms with being a lesbian, and it just follows her story, and it's incredible. At school there's a business competition going on, and Nishat decides to do a henna business. However, another girl in her class, Flavia, who also happens to be the girl that Nishat may or may not fancy, is deciding to do a henna business as well. So thus becomes the Henna Wars, and I loved every second of this. It was just so much fun. Also some really important themes in this book that I think we need to read more of. I loved the queer Muslim rep. It was done incredibly well, and yeah, I just really, really loved it. Also, Adabajah Girder, the author, has had some incredibly exciting book announcements on Twitter lately. She's doing like a queer Titanic retelling, and also like a donut competition, all in the far future, but I'm so excited. There's also a new release this year, which is Hani and Issue's Guide to Fake Dating. Cannot wait for that one. So yes, just all the sapphic goodness in this book with really important themes about queerness in religion, and it was very, very good. And I gave this 5 stars as well. I think this is the most 5 stars in a row I've ever had. So the next book I read was for the Perfectly Queer Book Club, hosted by Molly and Lily. Molly actually gifted me my copy of this book, which I'm still not over it. Thank you, Molly. But it is Beyond the Black Door by A.M. Strickland. Now, I actually hadn't heard of this book before it was announced as their book club pick, which is crazy because A.M. Strickland's new release is one of my most anticipated releases of the year. I just didn't connect the dots, which, okay. So this follows our main character Kamai, and her mum are soul walkers, and they can go inside other people's souls. Basically, whenever Kamai goes into someone else's soul, there is a black door that calls to her. And this book follows Kamai as she opens the black door that her mum told her, no matter what, never open the black door. Honestly, this is one of the best standalone fantasies I've ever read. I got to the end and immediately wanted to reread the whole thing. Our main character Kamai is coming to terms with her asexuality. I loved reading about that. I think asexual characters in books are not done regularly enough. I think I will be gushing about this book for a very long time. So this is obviously a 5-star read as well. So we've had 5 5-star reads in a row, everyone. Yeah, this was honestly incredible. I can't thank Molly enough for sending me this. The next book was also for a book club, and it was for the Rainbow Readers Book Club, which is hosted over on Instagram by some incredible Bookstagrammers, and the pick this month was Camp by Elsie Rosen. Now, I was so excited to finally be reading this. It's been on my TBR for a long time, and I've heard some really good things about it. And it did not disappoint, everyone. It was so good. The premise of the whole story is a summer camp which is for queer teens, and our main character, Del, or Randy, has been going for the last 3 or 4 years, I don't remember exactly, and every year he has fancied Hudson, who is like this sporty mask queer guy, and every year at camp he gets with a different guy and he's like the most desired person. So Randy basically changes his whole appearance, all his personality traits. He changes himself in order for Hudson to fall for him, and it works, but he compromises everything that he loves in order to do this, and it's essentially whether it's worth it, and it's incredible. It was so wholesome, so good. The side characters are just everything. I can't even tell you. We had some fantastic demisexual rep in here as well, which was fantastic to read. Loved it. And the whole story was just, I just loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars. It wasn't quite a 5 for me, but I loved it so much. Such a great book club pick as well. The next book I read, I fancied something a little bit quicker, so I went with a middle grade. So I read King and the Dragonflies by Kaysen Callender. This has been on my TBR since my birthday. Thank you very much, Chad, for gifting me this one. And it's just over, it's about 250 pages, but the font is quite big and I knew I'd get through it fairly quickly. It follows our main character, King, and his brother has died and he's convinced his brother has come back as a dragonfly. So that's like our main subplot. He's mourning the loss of his brother a lot, and it would be much easier if he could talk to his best friend Sandy. However, before his brother died, his brother told him stay away from Sandy because Sandy has come out as gay to King, and his brother told him that he wouldn't want anyone else thinking that King was gay too. So King thinks that he shouldn't be friends with Sandy anymore because it was one of the last things that his brother said to him. However, when Sandy goes missing, King has to sort of think about those questions that he's been asking himself as to whether his brother was right about staying away from one of his best friends. So it's a super hard-hitting middle grade. It's got some incredible themes, some quite heavy trigger warnings, especially for a middle grade. I really do think this book will be so beneficial for so many people, especially at the age it's targeted for. It was really, really beautifully done and really impactful as well. I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read has been on my TBR for a while, and it is Infinity Sun by Adam Silvera. I had heard incredibly mixed things about this book, let me tell you. Some people love it, some people hate it. Now, this is the first Adam Silvera I've read, so I feel like as someone who isn't an initial Adam Silvera fan, I didn't have any expectations. I think the main issue is people who love reading Adam Silvera's regular stuff went into this thinking it would be like similar vibes, and it isn't, I believe. I mean, I wouldn't know, I haven't read any of his other stuff, but I really, really enjoyed this. I think a lot of the issues some people have is it doesn't really explain anything. Like, you're literally just thrown straight in and there's like no definitions for any of the magic system, and you are sort of left to work it all out for yourself. However, I do enjoy that sometimes. This wasn't that complicated. Like, by 100 pages in, I was pretty confident I knew what was going on. And yeah, I enjoyed that there wasn't massive info dumps. Like, we just sort of had to weave all the information we were given together ourselves. It follows twins Emil and Brighton in a dystopian New York where people called Celestials exist, which are people who are born with otherworldly powers. And then we've also got another gang who, instead of being born with powers, they steal their powers from creatures such as phoenixes and hydras and basilisks, and they create their own power, basically. It's essentially like a war between these two gangs of people, and Emil has a massive part to play, but he never even realised it. And it's really cool. I really enjoyed it. It was sort of like gay superheroes. I really enjoyed it. The rep in here is fantastic as well. Adam Silvera did that really, really well. We've got bi characters, gay characters, lesbian characters, and I really, really loved it. And I loved how, I was saying to someone, the characters' sexualities weren't their defining character trait, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I gave this 4 stars actually, which some people on my Instagram are really surprised about. As I said, this is a Marmite book. I'd love to know if you've read it, if you loved it or hated it, because I love that. I love when a book divides people. I'm definitely on the fence of really enjoying it. This is when the reading slump hit me. I started reading A Dark and Hollow Star by Ashley Shuttleworth. I really enjoyed it. However, this is a chunky book with big, long chapters, a big, complicated magic system, and a hell of a lot of characters, and my brain wasn't having it. I was probably reading on average 25 to 50 pages a day, which for a 500-page book is quite a slow pace. And then because I wasn't reading that much, I wasn't retaining the information. However, once I hit like the halfway point, I got much more into it and I read it much quicker. And I did really enjoy it overall. Basically, we've got fae and fairies, and our main, well, there's 4 main characters. We've got 4 perspectives. They're all quite separate. The main plot is there is a creature or something that is killing Ironborn people, which are people that are half fae and half human, and something is killing them and we don't know what. And these 4 teens sort of work together to get to the bottom of it. Basically, that is the simplest possible way I can say it. However, I will warn you, it's a lot more complex than that. The magic system was a lot. If this book had a glossary, I would have enjoyed it a hell of a lot more. I think every 10 pages I kept flicking to the back hoping that there would be a definition for something, and then there wasn't, and I was like, oh, okay. It was just a lot. Like, even though it's fae and I've read books about fairies and stuff before, it was done very differently. Like, it's nothing like ACOTAR. If it wasn't everywhere that all 4 of these characters were queer, I probably wouldn't have got that until quite close to the end. I don't know, like, there is queerness, but it's not like a massive plot situation, you know? The plot is definitely more action focused than character focused, which I did enjoy. I'm hoping that the second book really delves into the relationships a lot more. This, I think, because it was such a massive, complicated magic system and so many characters to introduce, that was the main priority of book 1, and I understand that. Because by the end of the book, I knew what was going on, I knew who was who, I knew who I was rooting for, I knew what was going on, and now I'm like ready to know more. Because, yeah, I need book 2 immediately. Overall, I did really enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars. I just think a glossary would have been so beneficial. And to end this wrap up, I actually haven't finished reading this book yet, but I will. I'm hoping I'm going to finish it today. And it is Infinity Reaper by Adam Silvera. I'm reading this for Pride Book Tours. My stop on the tour is the 30th of March, so you can check out my post on Instagram now. I think it should be up now. I'm currently on page 334 out of 538, I think, ish, and I'm really enjoying it. It literally started straight where the first book finished off, so like, because I read them consecutively almost, I didn't mind that, but I feel like if you read the first book when it was released last year, you'll probably need a recap. I'm really enjoying it. I love the premise. I love where Adam Silvera has taken the plot. I will say Brighton is quite frustrating. I think he's written that way on purpose. I do think it's intentional, but wow, is really grinding my gears. So this is multi-perspective. I think there's 4 perspectives written in here, and Brighton is one of those perspectives, and I find myself like flicking to be like, oh great, I've got 50 pages until I have to read another one of his chapters. So that's the only thing I'm not really enjoying, but I'm super intrigued as to where this is going to go. I've got just under 200 pages left, and I am predicting this will be a 4-star book. So, and I think these last 200 pages will decide if it's going to be a 5-star. So we will see. You never know, Adam Silvera might pull this out of the bag. You don't know, but I'm really enjoying it. And yes, this will be my last read of March, because I'm not putting pressure on myself to try and squeeze in any more books. I just need to stop doing that to myself. That was my March wrap up. I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what your favourite book that you read in March was, because I would love to know. I think out of all of these, my favourite maybe is Beyond the Black Door. If you did enjoy this video, I would love it if you would consider subscribing to my channel and liking this video. All the love and support really does mean the world to me. And yes, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!